So I don't know very many entrepreneurs or business owners who are not a multitasker, but as our guest will tell us today, multitasking is one of those things that's really killing your profits and is probably setting you up for failure far more intensely than you probably have ever imagined. Hi, it's Melanie Benson Strick here. I'm known as America's leading small business optimizer, and the whole point of this weekly podcast is I want you to learn how to replace overwhelm and what we might say good enough results with proven strategies that will help you automatically generate exponential impact and financial results, because I want you to be able to do more of what you love. And I couldn't imagine having a more perfect guest that ties so beautifully in with the idea of optimizing today as Dave Crenshaw. Now, Dave is the master of helping business owners triumph over chaos. He's appeared in Time Magazine, Forbes, The Washington Post, and the BBC News. His first book, The Myth of Multitasking, which I happen to have on my bookshelf, How Doing It All Gets Nothing Done, has been published in 6 languages and is a time management bestseller. And he's now got a new book out called The Focused Business. These are words after my heart. Oh my God, I'm so in love with this book and I haven't even cracked it open yet. How entrepreneurs can triumph over chaos. And it's also already become a small business bestseller. So Dave, so great to connect with you today. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Melanie. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, we couldn't be more in tune with each other. You talk about some of my most favorite things on the planet, which is focus and being able to really streamline and get more done. Yeah, so it's right up my alley today. And I love this idea of getting out of chaos. And I think so many business owners, they don't even realize how much chaos they're creating for themselves. They probably don't even have a clue that it could be different. And that's probably what the catalyst for you was on some level behind writing this book, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I've seen not only in the clients that I've worked with, I've seen it in my own life. I saw it in my family growing up. And so for me, tackling this issue of chaos in a business is almost a personal quest, so to speak. It's something that I saw many business owners while growing up fail time after time because they got overwhelmed by chaos. And I should probably define what I mean by chaos when I say that.
Great idea.
So chaos, by my definition, is the haphazard allocation of resources toward things of variable value. Now, it sounds really long, so let me put it in everyday terms. You're working hard, you spend money, you spend time. Occasionally, it pays off. Occasionally, it doesn't pay off. And occasionally, it fails miserably. That is chaos. It's doing lots of work and not being very sure of the result that you're getting for the work that you're doing.
I love that definition. And, I think so many entrepreneurs are taught that chaos is good, like chaos is normal. But what you're saying is that chaos is actually a little bit destructive and can impact all the things that we're working so hard to build.
Right, yeah. I believe that entrepreneurial energy is productive. And that is a naturally chaotic sort of thing, right? You're always having ideas and opportunities and all these different things that can pull you in lots of different directions. Well, what I'm saying is we don't want to get rid of that. What we want to do is harness that and channel it in one direction, channel it in the most productive, most valuable direction. And when you do that, then you have focus, and then your business takes off. And there's story after story of some of the most successful businesses in the world that were highly focused, and that's why they got to that point.
So, how does somebody know that they're in chaos? Let's talk about some of the problems that are presenting themselves. And, maybe there are things that people think are normal. Maybe there are things that are feeling like a problem. But what are some of the signs that somebody's in chaos from your point of view?
Well, okay, so first of all, one of the things that I did in this book was I admit that I'm a geek. I like comic books, I like superheroes, I like science fiction. So what I did in the book was I created a fictitious organization called Chaos Inc. And it's run in an abandoned missile silo in Kansas somewhere. And like all evil organizations, it has 7 supervillains. Now, the reason why I did this is I wanted to make the 7 aspects of chaos in a business owner's life become more real, become easier to grab onto. So I'm wondering the best way to do this, if I should go through all 7, or if I should just do a brief overview, or should I just cover a couple?
Yeah, why don't you do just a quick brief overview and then give us a couple that you think are really pivotal for people? Like they're really up for a lot of people that you've met.
Okay, so first is the con. And the con is the reason why people go into business, but it gets them into the business for the wrong reason.
Okay.
Number 2 is the gorilla. The gorilla appears to be a strong employee, but instead they make a mess everywhere they go. Number 3 is Ms. Opportunity. She seduces business owners with lots of get-rich-quick ideas that distract them from their core business. Number 4 is, I'm going to have to make sure that I stay on track here. I'm going to bail myself out with my own book. Jack of all trades. So Jack of all trades has them spread their time and attention in lots of different directions. Siphon appears to be a good customer, but instead actually bleeds the business dry by making all sorts of bizarre requests. The jumbler, who jumbles your marketing message and sends it in lots of different directions. And then overload, that overloads business owners with too much information, too many decision-making processes. And so all of these together in some combination are affecting business owners and causing small businesses to fail.
I like that list. So what do you think is the one? Let's just maybe talk about one that you see as the most damaging or the most prevalent.
Well, let's start with the CEO of Chaos Incorporated, who is the con. Now, I said that the con is the reason why people go into business. And the reason isn't necessarily bad. The reason is, I'm going to make it big someday, right? I'm going to cash out. I'm going to make lots of money in my business. I'll be able to retire, have my own private island, buy a sports team, and then I'll have lots of time for family and friends and all that. The reason why they get into business isn't necessarily bad, but what the con does is he continually moves the finish line further and further out. So you believe that it's just around the corner. It'll be worth it in the end. And so I leverage my credit. I sacrifice my health. I stop spending time with friends and family. I neglect things that are most important to me, and I sacrifice them on the altar of the con, because it will be worth it someday. What I'm teaching instead is that it can be worth it now, and it must be worth it now. Because Melanie, you and I know from working with small business owners, the reality is most businesses don't achieve harvest like that.
Right.
They don't sell out. Google doesn't come in and buy them for $1 billion. That just doesn't happen. So instead, what we need to do is make it worth it today. What rewards are you getting out of your business today by running it? What rewards are your family getting out of your business every single week as a result of you being a business owner? We want to clearly define those rewards and turn the con's game on his head and say, no, it's not worth it someday, it's worth it now.
Great distinction. I'm glad that you made that, because I think if it's not worth it now, then what you're sacrificing is, how can it possibly be worth it for someday, which you may never even get to? There's, so many things that change along the way. So great. I love that list. That's fun. I like that you're having fun with it.
Yeah. And so let me give people one concrete thing that they can do with this. I talk about how each of the villains has a tool that you can use to defeat them. Sort of like you're Batman and you're filling up your utility belt. And so the utility belt here is the mini harvest. So you can define every single day, what's your daily harvest? And that can be anything from riding a bike to exercising to, I have a business owner client who was a foodie. So he'd go to lunch at a nice place every single day. Had another one who didn't feel like she was getting outside and getting fresh air enough. So she decided that her daily harvest was after lunch to walk up the hill, say hi to Bessie the cow, and that's the way she put it, and then come back. And these are little things that if you ask a typical business owner, they're not taking those little things. They get so caught up in the day-to-day that they're missing out on these little opportunities to enjoy life.
Yeah, so it's almost like finding ways to integrate lifestyle into the day to day so that you don't feel like you're missing out. It's integrated.
Right. And
Okay.
in particular, rewards. I'm not talking about the things that you feel that you should be doing. We can talk about those another time. I'm talking about the things that just make you feel good. My harvest, I mentioned I'm a geek, my harvest, I play Xbox for 30 minutes at the end of my day.
What's your favorite game?
I like Batman games. Big surprise, right? But I do that just before my kids come and knock on my door at 5 o'clock every day, and that's part of my family harvest. Is that I stop work at the same time every single day, so that my family knows that they can count on me.
The minute Xbox makes a laser tag program, I'm in.
Oh, you're at laser tag fan. Well, there you go. That could be a good weekly or monthly harvest.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to get that one in every day, but that's fun.
Yeah, that's why I said weekly or monthly.
Exactly.
Yeah, I tried paintball, by the way, once with a group of entrepreneurs organization EO. That's not a harvest of mine. I came away with so many welts.
Yeah,
So
try laser
tag's
tag.
safer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a funner version in my book than paint tag.
Yeah.
I don't need to get bruised to have fun.
Yeah,
That's definitely the extreme version. So, all right, so we're talking about chaos. We're talking about, simple ways to recognize the villains, and then you have different ways that you can focus every day to, as you call it, a tool in your tool belt to help you overcome that. I'm kind of curious. I know you mentioned that you've watched a lot of people struggle with this. You've seen clients dealing with it. You've personally gone through it. What has been one of your biggest challenges as an entrepreneur? And, I'm kind of curious, like, did it have anything to do with this? And is this how you got to this focus of yours?
Oh, absolutely. This has always been a huge problem of mine. First of all, just workspace organization and focus. I talk about how there are three groups of people that I work with in terms of productivity. I won't share all of them, but one of them is the pig pen, and I fit into that category. You used to have to use a shovel to get from the front door to the desk. And not only was I disorganized with my workspace, but I was chaotic and disorganized with my career. I mean, I've done everything, Melanie, from being a high school teacher to being a sales representative to having my own band. I was jumping all over the place, and it was about the time that my that my wife became pregnant. I knew I was going to have a son. So this is about 9 years ago, and I realized this is crazy. I cannot raise a family with this kind of pattern. And so I went and saw a psychologist, and he gave me a couple of tests. And after he gave me the tests, he said, "Has anyone ever talked to you about ADHD?" And I said, "Well, no, I don't think that really applies to me." And he said, "Look," and this is word for word, "you are freaking off the charts ADHD. If there were a fifth standard deviation, you'd be in it. I can say with
Wow.
99.99% accuracy, you've got it." And so, and nothing illustrates that more than when you start to look at it with your parents, because ADD is a genetic condition. It's not learned behavior. Most people, when they say, "I've got ADD," they're really talking about a learned behavior. I had this since I was 7. I can see it in my son. I saw it in my dad. So overcoming that through systems, through the things that I teach my clients, that has been a very personal battle my whole life. So focus is something that was very elusive to me, that I'm just now feeling that I'm on top of and very focused in my life.
I have heard so many entrepreneurs talk about ADD and their struggle with it in entrepreneurs. And, do you see a correlation between this drive to become an entrepreneur, or is it just something that more and more people are becoming aware of in terms of, some of the challenges they deal with in processing everything?
Yeah, to me, I think that, again, what most people say is ADD is not. I call it SAS, which is short attention span syndrome.
Okay.
It's a learned behavior through years of experience. And the question I always ask someone when they say, "I have ADD," is, what were you like prior to age 7? Were you like this? Unless the answer is yes, there's absolutely no way you can have it, because it's a genetic condition. Now, that said, there is a study out of the University of Stockholm that looked at the comparison between entrepreneurs and ADD. They found that statistically speaking, entrepreneurs are twice as likely as a career group to have ADHD. But what does twice as likely mean? That puts you in about 8 to 12% likelihood of actually having it. So that means that there's still the other, at most, 88% of entrepreneurs do not have the genetic condition known as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder in any of its flavors. So that's my response to that. My experience is most entrepreneurs are behaving that way because they've put into a situation where the jack of all trades is causing them to jump from role to role to role. And we can unlearn that behavior. We can help them become more focused through learning different systems.
Yeah, I call it bright, shiny object syndrome. There's all these bright, shiny things that look so appealing, and you think you're supposed to go do them just because they're interesting. And, really learning to cultivate that discipline of focus, like you're talking about, is the key to knowing which ones you should pursue and which ones are just somebody's idea that somebody should say yes to, but it's not you.
Right, yeah. And I talk about the bright, shiny object syndrome with Ms. Opportunity. Because that's what she does, is she throws those bright, shiny objects. And every supervillain has to have a catchphrase, right?
Right.
So hers is, don't leave money on the table. When you hear yourself say that, when you feel yourself say that, know that that is Ms. Opportunity attacking you. Because the reality is, if you ignore those things, and instead put your entrepreneurial energy and focus into what you're already selling and selling well, you'll make so much more money. You'll be so much more successful than trying to I mean, I've got dance studios that I've coached, and they've got extra space, right? Well, let's do birthday parties because we don't want to leave money on the table.
Right.
Well, but what that does is it adds overhead to your business, and you have to train your employees how to handle birthday parties, and then you have to market birthday parties, and then it muddles your marketing message, and it just spills on and on and on. So much better to just say, you know what, we sell one thing, maybe two things really, really well, and we just sell the heck out of those 1 to 2 things.
Did you happen to catch the show on CNBC called The Profit?
I heard of that. Yeah,
Okay.
I've heard of that.
If you get a chance to catch one of the reruns, there was there's an episode that's so about what we're talking right now. That there's a woman who has a popcorn franchise, and she's in all the amusement parks, and so she starts adding all these other offerings instead of focusing on her core competency. And the guy just rips her up, and he's like, "What are you doing? Why are you selling funnel cakes and all this other stuff that's just adding cost but not really adding profit?" And I think that's what you're saying is, over and over and over again, we think, hey, if I can do it, why not? And really, it's not that question. It's, does it make sense financially? Is it going to be profitable? And is it going to leverage our core competencies and help us do what we do better?
Right. It's interesting, though, because it is TV shows and celebrities that almost perpetuate the problem. And I'll give you a great example. Someone watches Shark Tank, and they see Mark Cuban. And they see that he's got 20, 30 different businesses that he's involved in. And they go, well, he's a successful person. I want to be a successful person. Therefore, I'm going to do that. There's a big problem with that, though, is that they don't realize is that these individuals followed the focused business model first. And that's something I illustrate. I use the example of Tyra Banks. Now, Tyra Banks has a TV show, supermodel. She's been a talk show host. She's got an MBA degree. She's a philanthropist, an author. I mean, the list goes on and on. But what she did was she first focused on being a supermodel and took that to the point of mastery. Then that opened up all these other opportunities. That's what we want to do first, is focus to the point of mastery. Mastering meaning it's automatic, it takes care of itself. That usually takes about a decade. Then after that point, then when you've got your business to that level of maturity, then if you want to branch out and be Mark Cuban or Tyra Banks or whoever, go for it.
It's almost like there's a syndrome that we could call premature business expansion.
Yep.
It's like
exactly.
You're starting the thing that works too early, and you're trying to jump ahead and skip steps. And I think that gets a lot of people in trouble. So if you were to look back, Dave, from where you are now and kind of look back over the last few years of the evolution of your own career, what would you say was a game-changing moment that really kind of set you up to follow the right path?
Well, I think that story that I told about recognizing what I had But I'm gonna rather than one moment, I'm gonna think of a series of moments,
Okay.
and it's a series of experiences that I've had with business owners, and it goes something like this. I start working with them. They tell me about all the success that they've had with their business and growing the business and expanding or whatever. And then at some point they say something like this. My daughter just turned 6 and I feel like I've missed out on her growing up. Or my son is turning 14 and I'm worried that that they're not going to know me and not going to want to spend any time with me because they're a teenager. I have heard so many stories like that, Melanie, and that has really just ingrained in me a really, really strong desire to not let that happen to me, to be there for my family. We've talked a little bit about multitasking, and it's so easy to take my phone and still be connected to my business, but when 5 o'clock comes, that's the end of my day. I don't check my voicemail. I don't check my email. I don't check my phone. Nothing. I don't check it on Saturday and Sunday. I leave that alone. I leave my business alone so that I can focus on being with my family. And that has really been kind of a guiding principle for me that I believe has helped me be successful, because it's forced me to be more creative with the systems that I have in my day. If it can't be done by 5 o'clock, then either I shouldn't do it, so I need to say no, which helps with focus, or I need to figure out a better way to do things that I'm doing.
So that's a really great system, and I'm glad you brought up systems, because I think anything that has to do with productivity and being focused requires systems. And I was going to ask you if there was some kind of a strategy or a technique that you find really invaluable. So maybe we could talk about a system that works really well for you that allows you to grow but lessen the amount of time you spend in your business.
Well, wow, that's a 2-day discussion.
Just pick one.
Okay.
You
Well,
give us the Cliff Notes version.
yeah, well, because what I do actually before I start working with a business owner is I take them through a 2-day process of getting their personal systems in order. So the system, and really came from me developing that to deal with my own ADHD. So what it comes down to, I'll give just the one principle that can sum it up, which is we have a set time every single week for about 5 hours a week that I go through and I bring everything to zero. I bring my email inbox to zero. I just finished it today, my physical inbox to zero, all my notes to zero. Because if I don't do that on a consistent basis, what's happening is I'm making decisions constantly throughout the day when I'm going to do those things, which will cause me to be less productive, cause me to incur a lot of switching cost. So that's the in a nutshell, what I follow, what all my clients follow is that system. And then on top of that, I have a coach, and I made myself accountable to my coach. I report to him every single week the same email that all my clients report to me, because you and I, Melanie, know a lot of gurus, a lot of experts who end up violating the principles that they teach. I believe that's because they did not make themselves accountable to someone else. So all of that combined is a really quick version of the system.
Yeah, I like that. One of my systems is that, and it might sound a little strange, but I actually have a system where I don't schedule, usually on Fridays, I don't schedule personal appointments unless I have a client in town. It's either Friday or Monday during the week. And I do that because my system is, I have a belief that things are always going to take longer than we think they will. And I've seen it proven over and over and over again. We tend to underestimate how long something's going to take, and then we're freaking out when it takes too long. So my system is I create space inside my week for wherever I need to float the rest of that project. Because if I don't, guess what happens? Then I'm working late hours, or I'm trying to cram it into the weekend, and I think that's where people have their time evaporate. So that's one of my little systems that I've learned over the years, is to always have space in my calendar during the week so that something can fit in there if I need to. And if it doesn't, then I get to have that day just to do something that feels exciting, to do one of my, what did you call your, when you're doing something that is like a payoff?
Are you talking about
Your harvest.
Oh, the harvest.
The harvest,
Yes.
yes. You can
Yeah.
do one of the harvest tasks.
Yeah, yeah. I completely agree with that. That's part of my systems as well. So
We have a
great.
lot in common, Dave.
Yeah, we do.
It's a shame we're not talking more. I think we're going to have to find ways to match up our systems more.
Yeah.
So I love mantras and quotes and inspirational concepts that help me keep my programs running on the right frequency in my brain. Do you have a favorite one that you use to help you stay, connected to what's important or to keep you fired up?
Well, I, I've mentioned one, which is the focus business model, which is focus leads to mastery, which leads to diversification. So that's one. The other one, it's interesting. It's up on my shelf, and it's my quote, but I created it for myself. And perhaps if you're a business owner that has the tendency to really get caught up in the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, because that happens, right? You get in the roller coaster. Perhaps this would help you. So it says, the truth is, things are not as bad as I think they are. Things are not as good as I think they are. I am not as bad as I think I am. I am not as good as I think I am. Truth is. In other words, my perception of truth, my perception of what's going on in my business is probably skewed too high or too low, and instead I just need to just go along with what's in front of me, with what the truth is. And that has helped bring me back from time to time. Even, I've had moments where I'll get really excited about something, and my wife, who knows this, will say, "What's the truth?" And then I'll go through that and remind myself things are not as bad, things are not as good. So I've found that to be really helpful.
That's a great one. I'm glad you shared that because I think a lot of people get caught up in those highs, and then when the lows happen, which they always do, it's always cyclical. They're so devastated, and they're trying to get back to these highs all the time. And if we just rode the waves, knowing that it's all normal and it's all our own. We're somewhere in the middle anyway. It's not the high or the low that we're interpreting it to be, that we would have so much more peace of mind going through life.
Absolutely.
It's great. So what's next for Dave? What's on the horizon?
The big thing right now is that we're letting people have a free chaos assessment. We're helping lots of people figure out how chaotic they are. I've been really excited about the results that we get from that. So if you don't mind, I'll share that
let's share it.
Your audience. So if you go to chaosquiz.com, it'll take you about 4 minutes. It's free and confidential. And so what happens is you send your answers, and it goes to a live person. This is not an automated computer sort of thing. And then that live person looks at your answers and then sends you back an assessment, lets you know where you fit on average with everyone else, and then also gives you action steps that you can take to start to reduce the chaos in your personal life and in your business.
Very cool. I like that. So chaosquiz.com, CHAOSQUIZ.com. So you can go take a chaos quiz. And so where can people find your book, Dave?
It's available in all major bookstores. I love Amazon myself, so I encourage everyone to go to Amazon. I buy everything off Amazon.
Yeah.
I bought beef jerky from Amazon a couple of days. So, what can't you get?
Exactly.
So I love Amazon. You can get it there.
So Kindle version 2 or just hard copy?
Kindle. It's also on the Apple Store.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah,
so are you personally a Kindle guy? Do you like downloading the digital books, or do you like your books in your hand?
I like, this is a source of contention with my wife and myself, because she likes to have the physical books that look nice. I'm impatient. I want it now. So typically what happens is if it's a book that I want to read immediately, I'll just go buy the Kindle version. But if it's something that we want to have look nice, then we'll buy the physical version as well.
That's a good way to do it. Yeah, I've decided I get so many books sent to me by really wonderful authors that I can't fit anymore on my shelf. So I'm like, okay, Kindle version. That way I always have it whenever I need it, and I can fit more books on the virtual bookshelf.
I have the same thing. I keep the best, and then I donate the rest to the library.
Yeah, I got to figure out a donation program with the books once I'm done with them. I feel bad. I feel like I'm hogging them or something.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I love it, Dave. This has just been so, it's been very fruitful for me just to hear these seven characters, if you will. What did you call them? The villains of
Yeah, the
chaos.
agents of chaos.
The agents of chaos. That's awesome. And I'm actually really glad to know you're a superhero guy. I'm a big superhero person. I was a
Oh,
Wonder
nice.
Woman fan, and I actually had
Oh,
people sending me Wonder Woman stuff for years. I actually heard they're finally going to remake the movies, so Wonder
yeah.
Woman's back in action. Yeah.
There you go. There you
She's
go.
right up there with Superman and Spider-Man finally. So this is
About
awesome.
time.
Yes, poor superpowers in the female side has always been about the guys for too long. We got to get those female superheroes back in action.
Absolutely.
So chaosquiz.com, go find out what villains are attacking you and what's up for you and what strategies can you put into action. I highly recommend you get Dave's book. His books are just so awesome, so full of really easy to implement techniques and strategies. And get your quiz and let us know what was one of the villains that you think you might be, or what was an aha you had from today's session. If you're following along on the blog, post it in the comments below. If you're in iTunes, you can pop over to melaniebensonstrick.com and head over to the blog and add it there. So Dave, thanks so much for being with us today. Appreciate your time and
Oh, thank
your
you.
wisdom and your commitment to help us tame the chaos and get more focused in our businesses.
Oh, I really appreciate it. It's been an honor.
Great. So bye everybody. We'll see you next week.